Good evening, everyone. I see a few people are still joining, but it's great to see some familiar faces in the audience and also some new faces as well. Welcome and thank you very much for joining. I am just going to kick things off since we are on the hour. My name is Ciel Vaughan and I work with ShareScreen Africa, and it's my absolute pleasure to host our event this evening. Okay, so our main event for tonight. Tonight we have Wild Fame turning celebrity power into conservation impact. And our wonderful speaker this evening is Festus Iyora. Festus is leading wildlife conservation efforts in Nigeria through his work with Wild Africa, where he drives public engagement and behavioral change campaigns. As the Nigeria representative, he has boosted national awareness by collaborating with influencers and producing impactful media content to address the country's wildlife crisis. So, Festus, thank you so much. We're really excited to have you on tonight. We appreciate your time and your expertise, and I will hand over to you now for your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's great to have you guys here. It's great to have everyone here. Thank you so much for finding that time to join. I'm going to be sharing my screen right away, and we're going to start the presentation. Wild Fame, turning celebrity power into conservation impact. A presentation by my humble self, Festus Iyora. So before we start, we need to understand why. Why helps us to ensure things are purposeful, right? So why does this talk really matter today? And the first answer I have here is Africa is home to iconic species, but many are on the brink of extinction. Many are fast disappearing. At the same time, public apathy, we have public apathy and indifference towards conservation too as well. And thirdly, illegal trade is fueling this crisis, like partly, especially illegal trade in pangolin scales, illegal trade in ivory, and also elephant ivory tusk, and also rhino horns too as well. But media, music, and celebrities can drive lasting change. And that brings me to Wild Africa, which is where I work. At Wild Africa, we are Africa's most effective conservation communicator working to protect African wildlife and wild species forever. So at Wild Africa, we're working to majorly protect African biodiversity, African wildlife and wild species. And it's very important to note that over the last 50 years, we've lost about 72% of our monitored wildlife population. About 76% of our wildlife population has been lost. And we are solving this problem by majorly popularizing conservation because we have so many issues we are contending with in Africa. We have also, because we are such a large population, nobody pays so much attention to conservation. It's a niche industry, or even a sub-niche industry in the environment space. So through a powerful network of media and also celebrities, influencers, what we're doing at Wild Africa is to leverage the media and also the influencers' platforms to make conservation cool, to make conservation accessible to many people, and to reach wider audiences that you would never even think of before. And that is the work we're doing at Wild Africa. We're just making conservation cool, popularizing conservation, and making people to know about the crisis, and most importantly, the opportunities that conservation offers. And the end result is that by the time we popularize conservation, we get people to be aware of the issues that affect conservation, and also, again, like I said earlier, the opportunities. And this is going to lead to the protection of wild animal and wild species forever, or for future generations. And currently, we operate in Ghana, Namibia, as you can see on the screen, Ghana, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, Somaliland, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe. And it's very important to note that while we have the same mission, or we have the same focus of, or the same purpose of conserving African wildlife forever, we should also understand that we have different campaign focus. And for instance, in Rwanda, what we're doing in Rwanda is to encourage local people to visit their national park. We are encouraging local tourism because in Rwanda, they've got Akagera National Park, they've got Yungwe Forest, they've got these natural, beautiful parks, and local people hardly visit there. So our campaign in Rwanda is just to encourage people to visit their park, because the moment they can visit the park and see what they are blessed with, they can appreciate it, and they can also apply empathy when it comes to conservation too as well. In South Africa and Namibia, we're encouraging people to also visit their national parks. And in Zimbabwe, we are doing a bit of anti-poaching campaign, especially poaching of rhinos. And we're also solving human-wildlife conflicts, majorly because in Zimbabwe, for instance, people are clashing with animals. You know, animals are, should I say, they love spaces a lot. They love it when they can roam around freely. And because population is increasing, humans are coming in contact with these animals, often leading to conflicts. People killing elephants, and elephants retaliating in a way. And so in Zimbabwe, what we're doing is that we are majorly promoting coexistence of animals and humans, you know, through different programs and activities we have in Zimbabwe. In Nigeria, where I currently work, it's a different ballgame entirely. It's a different problem entirely. In Nigeria, we are fast losing our wildlife, which I'm going to talk in the next screen. I'm going to talk about in the next screen. And our campaign is majorly focused on anti-poaching, or discouraging people from consuming animals as bushmeat, especially illegal animals as bushmeats. And so the campaign focus is just anti-poaching, and at the same time, conservation, right? Changing behaviors towards conservation. And so this is just to say different campaign, the same mission, but different campaign in different countries or across different countries. So this is where we are currently in Nigeria. Nigeria, we are fast losing our wildlife, like I said earlier. We have less than 50 lions, we have less than 100 gorillas, and we have less than 500 elephants left in the wild, and we are losing them at a fast pace. And at the same time, Nigeria is a hub for trafficking, especially in ivory and pangolin scales. And again, I said that earlier, there's a high local demand for bushmeat, especially animals that are protected, animals that are meant to be protected are consumed as bushmeat. And it's important to actually explain a bit of contextual, shall I say, underlinings right here, because in Nigeria, we have over 250 million people, 250 million population. And again, just as I said earlier, because we have 250 million people, we have different issues that we are contending with. We have different issues we are wrestling with. And conservation is the least of our problems, right? And nobody even thinks about conservation. I mean, whenever you come to Nigeria, you know, or whenever you think about Nigeria, you think about Nollywood, you think about Afrobeat, you think about pop culture. No one hardly thinks about conservation, right? And so because of that, that is why we have this crisis, because nobody thinks about conservation, nobody takes care of, you know, the national park, and there's really little or no attention to it. And as my boss will always say, as Wild Africa, will always say, we can always get people to care, right? I mean, when you give people reason to care, they are going to really pay attention. And that has been the bulk of our work here in Nigeria, getting people to care, getting people to pay attention. So before we started our campaign in 2021, we realized that we needed to understand the foundational issues. We needed to understand what exactly are the problems and how it affects conservation in Nigeria. So we commissioned a baseline survey, and the baseline survey is about MSI Market Standard International, the survey company. They surveyed about 2,000 people across 4 cities nationwide. And just for context, we have about 36 states in Nigeria, and about 5 or 6 major cities across 6 political zones, or 6 sub-political zones in Nigeria. And so the survey company just reached out to 2,000 people across 4 cities. And then we discovered that over 70 of the entire people surveyed, over 70% consumed bushmeat at some point in their lives. And over 45, they've had to consume, over 45% have had to consume bushmeat within the last year. And then we also discovered that tastes and flavor are the major driving factors, are the significant factors that influences urban consumption of bushmeat. And what are the animals they are consuming? You might ask. They consume pangolins. These are endangered species. They consume antelopes. And this survey really helped us to understand what the problem really is or what the problems are. And one thing that it did is that it also helped us to create a new campaign strategy, right? Because again, before you can start solving a problem, you need to understand what are the factors that led to that problem in the first place. And so that was what we did, and that was how we were able to design the entire campaign. And then we got to work. And how we got to work was majorly to create solutions. So I call the solution pillars at Wild Africa. So now that we understand that people are driven by different motivations, or people have different motivations for consuming wildlife, people have different motivations for not paying attention to Nigerian wildlife ecosystem or Nigerian conservation space. Why don't they care, or why is it that they don't care about these things, and what can we do to majorly salvage the situation? So we created this pillar, the media, the government, NGOs, influencer, the public, and also tourism. With the media, we realized that the media is such a powerful platform. The media sets agenda for public discussion. The media, both social and traditional media, they are majorly where people go to whenever they want to know what is happening, right? On Twitter, there's always a trend bar just by the left-hand side of Twitter that shows you the trends, whatever is happening, every single day. It's always there. So we realized that we needed to partner with the media. So with the media, we started producing content, conservation content with them, quality content, eye-catching content. And shout out to our South African team, because we have a production team in South Africa. They're the ones in charge of production. So with them, we're able to produce quality content, and then we shared it with the media partners. And just to also understand, Nigeria has such a huge media landscape. We've got the popular TV, we've got the radio TVs, and we've got the radio stations rather. And also, talking about the next point, which is the government, we also realized that we need to, beyond the media, we also partner with the governments for wildlife tourism, for laws enforcement, and also conflict reduction. We also partner with other NGOs that are already working on the ground. And then the most important thing, the reason why we are here today, we realized that we needed influencers, because with influencers, you can get attention, right? And for people to start paying attention to conservation, we only have one answer, we only have one solution, and which is working with influencers to do that. And then we're also working with the public to make them understand conservation, and also which will help change their attitude. And for other countries, like I mentioned earlier, like South Africa or Rwanda, we are encouraging people to visit the national park. So the power of celebrities. So this is the reason why we are here today, one of the reasons why we are here today, one of the reasons why I'm having this conversation. So it's very important to understand that attention is very scarce to get. And with the way attention span is reducing every single day, the question is, how can we get major issues? How can we get important issues in front of people? How can we let people pay attention? How can we get people to stop and say, oh, wow, okay, what's that about? Or what's this person talking about? And because conservation is such a niche subject, or is such a subject that people would rather not pay attention to, or people would normally not pay attention to, we realized that partnering with celebrities would get us in front of people. So, why celebrities? Celebrities, they have the influence, which is stan culture is such a big thing. I don't know in any other part of the world, but in Africa, stan culture is a big thing. People respect, or people really love celebrities. So because of that influence, we realize that they can pay attention to anything we want to say about the campaign. And also they have connection and they have credibility. And it's also very important to understand that they have the numbers, which is they have the platform, right? And as Wild Africa, we also realize that based on our day-to-day work, and based on our work with the social media team, and shout out to them too as well, they've been doing an amazing job. We realized that data has shown, internet data has shown that celebrity-backed PSA, they drive 2 to 3 engagement and reach than normal PSA. So for instance, we have Davido here. Davido is the biggest or one of the biggest musicians in Africa, if not the top 3 biggest musician in Africa. And just imagine Davido saying something about pangolins. It's going to majorly shift your attention. Oh, Davido is talking about pangolins. And that drives engagement. You know, people will chat, people will say, oh, what's that about? Oh, what's this about? What are pangolins, for instance? You know, people are asking questions just because the video is talking about pangolins, right? And also we realized that beyond using English, which is the official lingua franca in Nigeria, we realized that using indigenous language, which I'm going to explain further during the course of this presentation, we understand that using indigenous language connects with more people. I mean, there's something magical about someone speaking your local language. It draws your attention, right? To maintain top of mind awareness, which is to get people, to get the message across to people nationwide, to get people to, shall I say, keep saying the conservation message, or to ensure that people have conversation about conservation, we needed to, you know, do billboard campaigns, right? As you can see here, this is Davido with this billboard campaign on illegal bushmeat. This is Alex Iwobi, one of the biggest footballers here in Nigeria, a Nigerian footballer. He also plays for Fulham in London. That's in the English Premier League. And this is Leonard Duke, a huge influencer here in Nigeria. So we did this billboard campaign with them. And you are going to agree with me if you paid attention to marketing communications. You discover that products that have been advertising for many years, those are the kind of products that you might likely buy. Coca-Cola, for instance, or Pepsi. The moment you go into a shop, the first thing that comes to mind whenever you want to satisfy maybe you're craving for sugar, you say, do you have Coke or do you have Pepsi, right? And it's majorly because Coke and Pepsi, they've been advertising for many years. So they've created a mind share and they've created an attention in you. So that way you can easily, you know, buy Coke and buy Pepsi. So let's say in conservation, we're trying to make conservation like products. We're trying to make conservation like Coke or Pepsi. So people can always remember whenever they see that, oh, save our pangolins. We need to save our pangolins. We need to stop consuming wild animal as bushmeat. The next slide is a video. It's one of the PSAs from our ambassadors. So one of the things we do, again, like I said earlier, we partner with the media. So one of the things we do is that we create this 30-second PSA, public service announcement, that educates people about a single thing: illegal bushmeat, save pangolins, save lions. And then we partnered with the biggest TV partners or the biggest TV stations in Nigeria. And so this PSA you're about to listen to, someone sent it to me. Someone saw the PSA on one of the biggest TV stations in Nigeria, AIT, and said, oh, Festus, I saw you guys campaign on AIT, and then the person shared this video with me. So I'm sharing that with you.
A shy little creature called the pangolin. Hundreds of thousands of pangolins are hunted and killed every year just for their meat and scales. If we continue this way, the pangolins will soon disappear. We can't allow this to happen. Tell your families and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat from pangolins and other protected animals. Keep them wild. Keep us safe.
Okay. So that's the PSA from Emanuela. Emanuela is one of the biggest comedians and actress here in Nigeria, and she's currently our ambassador, and she's been doing an amazing job, you know, supporting the campaign. So beyond TV, we realized that TV majorly targets a different range of population. Targets baby boomers, people in their 40s, people in their 50s and 60s. We realized that beyond TV, beyond just targeting the baby boomers, beyond targeting people that would rather not go on TikTok, for instance, we realized that, okay, we needed to focus on the young population. We needed to focus on young people. So the campaign is not just on major, you know, legacy media platforms like TV or radio. It's also on social media. So we are targeting the millennials and Gen Z, and we are educating them about conservation. We are making conservation cool by engaging them on this platform. I mean, again, in marketing communication, they will say, go where your audience congregates, go where they gather. So, I mean, the elderly ones are likely to be on TV, the younger ones are likely to be on social media. And then we are collaborating with celebrities on Instagram. And if you understand how Instagram works so well, IG collaboration is when you collaborate with you collaborate using 2 accounts to majorly share a content. So when Wild Africa collaborates with the video, for instance, this helps us to reach more people that we've never seen before, people that have never heard anything about conservation. Again, in marketing, this is called the untapped and cold audience, people that don't know anything about the messaging you're sharing. So the IG collaboration helps us to reach more people. And as a result, we get new converts. So each time we post a video using IG Collabo feature on Instagram, we get new people, we get new followers. I think now we have more than 20,000 followers on Instagram, and it's majorly, partly through the collaboration we get with celebrities. And then we also use TikTok and Instagram, TikTok and Facebook Reels to target different audiences. Like for instance, I mentioned baby boomers. So you're likely to see more boomers on Facebook, for instance, than on TikTok. So the TikTok targets the younger population, the Facebook Reels targets the older population. And then occasionally we have this conversation on X. I don't know if you know about X Space. X is formerly known as Twitter. And so for us to also get the conversation going, for us to get more attention, we collaborate with celebrities. One of the collaborations we did was with Laycon. Laycon is one of the biggest musicians in Nigeria, and he's also an ex-BB Big Brother Africa reality TV show housemate. He won the Big Brother Africa edition for 2020. And so he's got these huge followers. And then we wanted to talk about forest. And we thought, how can we get more people to listen to us about forest and the importance of forest? And so we partnered with Laycon, reached out to him, and he said, sure, he would love to have a conversation about forest. And he doesn't have to be an expert. In fact, the major role he played there was just to ask questions as a lay person. Why are forests important? Why do we need to protect our forest? And this particular conversation got a lot of acceptance, got a lot of reception, because many people, people that are majorly following Laycon, like, wow, why is Laycon on this X-Space? What are they talking about here? And so because of this, we got a lot of people tuned in. I think about 10,000 people. I can't remember the numbers, but that is also a strategy. If you want to get people to listen to you, you use someone that will drive their attention to majorly drive the conversation. So beyond social media or beyond the co-productions we do with our partners, we have this special program we call Music for Wildlife, right? Music for Wildlife is majorly using music to promote conservation. And we partner with about 130 African musicians. This concert series, this concert series includes wildlife messaging aimed at young people across the continent. And we partnered with Trace TV. I don't know if you can see their logo here. So Trace TV is one of the biggest platforms for music promotion in Africa. So we partner with Trace TV to promote Music for Wildlife. And it's very important to note that we've got one of the biggest artists, one of the biggest African musicians, or the biggest African musicians on the platform. We've got Focalistic and Mosakis. They are both from South Africa. In Nigeria, we've got CK, and we've got a host of other musicians from other African countries. And it's very important to know that if you understand music are divided into genres and subgenres. With our Music for Wildlife, we have a fusion of both Amapiano and Afrobeat. And based on the data that I saw on Spotify, Sub-Saharan Africa saw about 114 surge in music streaming driven by Afrobeats, according to Spotify 2024 Wrapped. And also Afrobeats and Amapiano grew by 550 on Spotify since 2017, powered by mostly young listeners. And the bulk of our Music for Wildlife focuses on Amapiano and also Afrobeat. So through these two genres, we are reaching near audiences. And just to paint a picture of what the concert is all about, so the music plays, and then there are messages, running underneath about conservation, and also there are breaks in between that promotes conservation. There are 30 seconds PSAs. There are unsung heroes within the concert as well. And this is a kind of soft power, or this is actually soft power, which is you don't necessarily need to tell people about conservation. You just need to make it very subtle. So with Music for Wildlife, we are achieving that. And beyond the Music for Wildlife, for instance, we also have an opportunity to educate people. So besides using the ambassadors, besides Music for Wildlife, we realized that we needed to educate people. People need education, especially when it comes to conservation. And in Nigeria, we do not have conservation biology in a secondary school curriculum anywhere, even in primary school. People do not learn about conservation except on Nat Geo Wild. And so that leaves a huge knowledge gap. So with our radio shows, what we are doing is that we are partnering with experts, to talk about conservation in the simplest form, right? And then we've got a bunch of these programs, as you can see here, that talk about different things. This talks about illegal wildlife trade. This talks about bats. Sorry. This talks about bushmeat. And then in Nigeria, we have about 15 stations, about 15 radio stations that we are partnering with. And these are weekly shows in English, Hausa, and Pidgin. And at the same time, just to also paint a contextual background about how people consume radio in Nigeria, how people listen to radio in Nigeria. Radio is very passive. It's one of the passive form of communication, which is you don't need to necessarily pay attention. Unlike TV, where you need to pay attention. With radio, you can be driving and then you're listening to as well. So in Nigeria, when you get into Ubers, when you get into cabs, people are, the radio is just playing in the background. And also in the northern part of the country, people go to farm, listening to their radio. And in different households too as well, in the evening, especially this time, you see people with their radio sets trying to get the latest information, what is happening in the country. So with radio, it's an opportunity to meet people. It's an opportunity to get people to know more about wildlife, to know more about conservation. And our partnership with radio has been really, really amazing, and it's been excellent. It's been an excellent strategy to educate more people about conservation. So I've been working on this campaign for 3 years now. Yeah, 3 years. I mean, time flies when you're doing something really amazing, right? So I've been working on this campaign for 3 years, and so far, I'm going to talk about what works. So it's very, very important to always emphasize the health risk, that comes with coming in contact with bushmeat or coming in contact with wild animals. And so in our campaign messaging, we emphasize the health risk. For instance, when you consume bushmeat, you're likely to come in contact with diseases like COVID-19, Lassa fever, and Marburg virus. In fact, Lassa fever in Nigeria has killed more people than COVID-19. So our messages emphasize the health risk. And it's also very important to connect wildlife to national identity. In South Africa, we have a campaign where we tell people to visit the national park because it's easier than they think, or it's very cool to visit the national park. In Rwanda, the same thing. And in Nigeria, we always say, oh, it's very important for us to protect our national heritage. Nigeria is not Nigeria without its lion, for instance. And then again, I've explained this earlier, indigenous language is very, very important, because with indigenous language or with indigenous messages, you connect with people, especially people that rather not pay attention to in the first place. Also, the fourth thing we realize is that storytelling is king. I mean, we connect through two things. We connect through emotions and we connect through storytelling and through data, right? So when you hear a story, you're hooked. When you hear a data, you're also paying attention. So because of that, we realized that storytelling is very key. And we did that. We infused storytelling in our campaign messaging. There's a particular PSA I can't play because of time. It's by one of our biggest ambassadors, Alibaba. Alibaba is the #1 comedian in Nigeria, the godfather or the grandfather of comedians, as he calls himself, or as people call him, because he's really, really popular. He's really big in Nigeria. So he did a particular PSA where he went to a bushmeat kitchen, or he went to a bushmeat restaurant and he ordered for bushmeat. So we did a bit of storytelling around that just to pass a message across. And it's also very important to know that the medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said many years ago. That's for those in the field of communication. So the medium is very, very important. If you are targeting TV, you know that, okay, you are addressing the baby boomer population. If you are targeting TikTok and Instagram, you are paying attention, you know that you are targeting Gen Zs and also millennials. So it's very important for you to know what works where. Also, I'm just going to be sharing tips on how to engage audience based on my experience working at Wild Africa. So it's very important to start with why. Why should they know this? Why should they know about conservation? Why is it important? Why now? Why now? Because we are fast losing our wild animals, we are fast losing our forests. And if we don't do anything right now, we're going to lose them forever. And it's going to have deep consequences, especially for future generations. Then it's also very important to always use emotions. Again, we are emotional beings and we connect through emotion. So the particular theme of love is what we also try to infuse in our campaign. This is your national park. Be proud of your national identity, your national heritage. So use emotion like fear, for instance, with a zoonotic disease messages. It's not as if you're instilling fear in them, but it creates that fear that, oh, you might contact this disease if you don't stop consuming bushmeat. Also, it's very important to keep the message very simple and very simple, right? So with our 30 seconds PSA, we are keeping our messages very, very simple. And again, it's very important to know your audience. I think I've mentioned this several times during the course of this presentation. So very important to know your audience and tailor the messages according to your audience segmentation. So I'm doing a quick case study just to save time. So as Wild Africa, we believe that you must not always go for the big guys. Sometimes it's very important to go for the small guys, and also it's very important for you to go for the big guys. So I'm going to be doing 2 case studies, looking at the micro influencers and the major influencers. So this is Arojila. Arojila is our first indigenous ambassador in Nigeria, and is an influencer and broadcaster. He has a combined reach of over 5 million across all social media platforms. He speaks Yoruba. Yoruba is 1 out of 3 major languages in Nigeria. It's very important to know that in Nigeria, we have at least 250 million people. We have at least 200 languages, local minor languages, but we have 3 major languages. We have Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa. And so Arojila speaks Yoruba, which is one of the major languages in Nigeria. So, and all his PSs are in Yoruba. So this is reaching more people. I remember the first PSA we posted about pangolins. That's reached almost 50,000 people. Organic reach, no promotion. And so this stood out to me. This person said, well done, brother, thank God for social media. If not, it would have been difficult to learn from a wealth of knowledge like you, especially in Yoruba. So again, that tells us that people love it when you do something in their language, when you craft messages in their own language. So I'm moving to the next one, which is the major influencer. So Davido is the biggest, the 3rd biggest, one of the biggest musicians in Africa. And he has a combined reach of 70 million people, and is a poster boy for Afrobeat and pop culture in Nigeria. And his influence is just really too big. And then we've been able to maximize that with our PSA, with our billboards, and also on social media too. So let me tell you a quick story about this. So when we did our campaign in Nigeria in 2021, we invited Davido, and that was the first time a pangolin went viral in Nigeria. As you can see here, this is Stephanie Linus, one of our ambassadors too as well, an actress, one of the biggest actresses in Nigeria. This is Emanuela, the PSA you watched earlier. But this one stood out to me because this was the first time a pangolin went viral in Nigeria. People were like, what's that animal? Because with celebrities in Nigeria, the moment they go somewhere, bloggers are there, the media, paparazzi, everybody is there, just capturing images about him. And so this went viral on Twitter and also on Instagram. People are asking, what's that? What's that animal? And then it's an opportunity for them to know that it's a pangolin. And this is one of the biggest highlights of our campaign back in 2021. And then also talking about stan culture, this person said, oh, I love Davido so much, the best. I'm definitely supporting this campaign because of him. So that shows you how much influence he has. Someone is ready to support conservation because of Davido. I mean, that's really interesting. So after 3 years of working in Nigeria, or 2 years of doing this campaign in Nigeria, we commissioned a survey by MSI, Markets Survey International, and they surveyed 1,000 people from 8 states just to ask them questions about the campaign. And then we got an amazing result, from from our campaign in Nigeria. And then 88% of the entire people surveyed, they said they remembered our campaign. 31% said they will no longer consume illegal bushmeat because of our campaign. And 50% now educate others about wildlife and illegal bushmeat. Remember earlier I said someone sent the video, the Emanuela video PSA. Someone sent it to me. Oh, Festus, I saw, and this person is someone I've known, I think, some years back, but he knows I'm working on the campaign. So imagine person sending the video to me. So imagine how empowered the person has been and how the person would play a role of educating other people just by coming in contact with that PSA. And this is also an interesting metric in the entire survey. 10 to 17 years old, they remember our campaign. We currently have a show called Dr. Mark Animal Show for Kids. So Dr. Mark Animal Show for Kids educates children about wildlife, about conservation in Nigeria. So it's very important to know that the age range between 7 to 14 and also other teenagers are watching this show. And it's across the country. In fact, it has been translated into Hausa. Hausa is one of the biggest widely spoken languages in Nigeria, and it's widely spoken even in Western, even in neighboring countries in Nigeria, like Niger Republic, some part of Niger Republic, some part of Cameroon. They also speak Hausa language as well. So our campaign is reaching those areas too as well. So it's important to see that young people, they remember our campaign through Dr. Mark Animal Show, through Emanuela, who's an ambassador for children, by the way, for teenagers. And the most interesting part is 91% said they will no longer eat bushmeats, and they found substitute for bushmeats due to the exposure from our campaign. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Festus. That was really fascinating. And I see our Q&A is already lighting up. We have a hands up from Asima. So Asima, I'm going to go to you first to answer your question.
Okay, thank you so much. Festus, thank you for your presentation. My name is Asime Oba. I'm also a Nigerian. I'm from Rivers State. So a quick one. My first question is, the market survey Wide Africa conducted, was it conducted in urban areas or in local communities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It was conducted across urban areas because our campaign usually targets urban population. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Great. Thank you for that question, Asima. Emlyn, I see you also have your hand up. Nice to have you in tonight.
Okay. Well, I have just a couple of thoughts to add to this impressive effort, and the results are very pleasing. But from a global perspective, through the lens of science and society, I suppose, I'm going to suggest or just make the observation that Africa's two major sort of brand driven profiles are really that it's the cradle of humankind and it's a bastion of wildlife. And to the degree to which Africans in Africa, and I speak generally and not so knowledgeably, although I was born in Africa, but it's with some ignorance, but sort of respect, that I suggest that maybe there are some lessons to be learned about what the anthropological, archaeological community have done to raise attention and appreciation for the significance of the African continent to the birthplace of humankind. And I wonder if there are any sort of parallel lessons that could be learned when it comes over to the world of wildlife. And just a quick and related or unrelated, but sort of, I suppose, related suggestion is that, does Africa have any David Attenborough-like personalities and any major, you spoke about the radio. I'm not sure that I saw anything about TV. Maybe you said it, but I think that lens, that sort of vehicle has been so powerful in terms of public broadcasting across the Northern Hemisphere, English-speaking world. So I just have those two observations to throw into this very impressive effort.
Okay, just to quickly answer your second point, we do have partnership with TV stations across Nigeria, even across Africa. And we have what we call co-productions. Just as I explained earlier, the radio programs educates people. We also have TV programs, that really educates people. In fact, our biggest TV program yet has been the Go Wild series we do with Arise Television. So the Go Wild majorly educates people on different subjects, travel to national parks, expose people to see national parks, and also talk about the problems too as well. Yeah, thank you for your observation.
Great, thank you, Emlyn. Asima, I see you have your hand up again. I'm not sure if that's to ask a follow-up question, maybe.
Yeah. So, Festus, I think I have another question. Just recently, I'm a conservationist, so I think that's why I'm asking this question, because it's important what you guys are doing, but sometimes it might not be effective because most of these activities are being done in urban areas, not in the local community. For example, there is a forest elephant I'm working on conserving, which is a very small range population, small in size. This population was about 46 in 1992. But right now, the population is drastically reducing to the point of, in fact, there is no conservation activities. And in those communities, some of the communities don't have even network access to network. So nobody uses Android phone or Apple, iOS, whatever. So my question is, I think about 2 weeks ago, there was a fascinating research published by Charles A. Emogo. The study finds about pangolin. For years in Nigeria and all over Africa, there was this information that pangolin are being poached because of pangolin scale, which is not actually true. In Nigeria, for example, the southeastern part where they consume pangolins, some of the poachers don't even have information of pangolin scale. So they consume pangolin, for protein source and other, just so that they can eat, a source of feeding for them. So, and in conservation, there is something we look at, we're always looking at poaching, which is not solving the real issue. In the local community, some of these people don't have access to what the people in urban community have access to. Some of them don't have resources, so they depend on this wildlife. So I think in your campaigns is good what you guys are doing, but we should also think about the livelihood aspect in terms of behavioral change. If you want to change somebody's behavior, somebody that does not have finances, that survive with this wildlife, if you want to change the person's behavior, if you want the person to stop pushing, there are other ways of engaging such people. They need to have alternative source of livelihood, other source of how they can, for example, those that consume pangolin, for protein, they need other source of protein. So I think that is what
what you're
we
trying to say.
to do.
Yeah,
And
that's what we're
another of my question is, you guys, you're already in the media space. What do you guys do for early career conservationists that are going into these local communities? How can you guys amplify what they are doing in terms of showcasing, their field activities?
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Just to answer briefly, because we have other questions that are coming into as well. It's very important to know that our campaign is majorly a communications campaign. We are a communications conservation organization. Every other aspect of conservation, livelihood, anti-poaching, it's not in our own purview, it's not in our own, shall I say, departments, right? So we just work on the campaign. And then talking about the distribution of, or the movement of, animals from rural to urban areas, you mentioned that we need to support livelihood. One of the major tenets of our campaign is that we believe that when the buying stops, the killing will stop. And where does the buying come from? The buying comes from the urban centers. The people in the urban centers are the ones who have the money to buy bushmeat. The moment we convince people through behavioral change communications to stop purchasing wild animals, right? It's going to drastically stop, the demand from the rural area, right? It's going to stop the value chain. In business, there's a value chain. There's a supplier, there's a middleman, and there's a final consumer. The moment we get the final consumer to stop, to see the ills of consuming bushmeat, the demand will drastically stop. And then in China, for instance, we've seen campaign where behavioral change campaigns stop the demand of shark fin products, for instance, or shark fin soup, right? Or for IV products, right? So the moment we stop the demand in the urban centers, the rural parts will be taken care of. And I think the major thing to take out of here is that we also need to increase our campaign in the rural areas, but we're just only one, right? We can only focus on one place at a time. So we are focusing on urban areas for now. With time and with more funding, we are going to target the people at the local area, but with communications, not with livelihood support, because that is not our purview. That is not the area of concentration.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for that question, Asime. So we have a few questions here in the chat. There's a question here from Claudia Roth. Do the famous musicians make songs about conservation or wild animals? Because, music stays in people's minds longer than normal information or simple videos. Thinking about the rhythm and local languages. Is that something that you get any of?
Yeah, sure. I think in Rwanda, we've got one of our musicians, KP Ilest. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. He did a song about pangolins, or some of the songs in the Music for Wildlife also talked about animals partly, not fully. But now that you've mentioned, it's something we can prioritize. I mean, we can do an album about pangolin. Who knows? That will really go viral. That makes sense.
That's a great idea. Okay, so we have another question in the chat from Kelvin. So Kelvin's asking, do you notice any major differences in gender or maybe the demographic of the celebrities that you target for your campaigns, for those who are more willing to speak? Maybe it's the younger celebrities that are a bit more familiar with the issues.
I think for us, the major thing is when we are approaching new celebrities, we look at the influence, and also, of course, we look at their character, we look at, how they can help advance the cause of the campaign. So we don't look at gender. I mean, with Emanuela, for instance, she's now a teenager compared to when we brought her on board when she was still very young. So we don't really focus on gender. We just focus on who is willing to do the work and how willing are they to go, or how willing are they ready to go far with us, with the campaign.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Festus. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I personally follow Davido and Emanuela on TikTok. Yeah, so my question is, do you think the influencer campaigns lead to sustainable behavior change, or they work really well when it's just short-term awareness?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. With the influencers campaign, what we hope to achieve, what we are looking to achieve, is with consistency, we are going to achieve two things. The first thing we've achieved for now is awareness, right? Which is at least people are aware of these issues, right? And then with more consistency, because even in marketing communications, it takes time for people to change their behavior. It has to be sustained, it has to be consistent. So with more sustained efforts and more consistency, we're going to get to that point where people fully change their behavior. And so far, in the survey, as I pointed earlier, people are changing their behavior slowly based on the message they've been exposed to. So that's the information I have on that.
All right.
Yeah,
And
the
one
question.
more
Okay.
last question from me. I understand there have been maybe challenges working with this because they're really famous. What are some of the challenges that you've faced?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I mean, the challenges are just so much. Well, I'm just going to talk about a few. So because they are, number one, because they're celebrities and because their understanding of the world is different. So it takes a lot of effort to get them to first of all understand. Because for them to empathize with the issue and for them to assimilate and then for them to now, carry on and then do something that we want them to do, they need to first understand. So getting them to understand is always an issue. Getting them to understand why this is, shall I say, a public benefits campaign, something that will benefit the public. And because some of them, beyond the fame, beyond the cameras and the glitz, some of them are actually very good people. They want to do something good, right? So another thing we do is that we also appeal to their good side. We appeal to their, shall I say, I've forgotten this particular quote, but everybody wants to do good. I think that's general. So we appeal to that side, and then, but before we get to that point, it's always very stressful. And also, when it comes to collaborating with them for content, when it comes to even the Instagram collaboration, it takes time. I remember when we were doing a series with one of our celebrities, and the person just came last minute and said, we cannot do the post today because the management, we are planning a new album rollout. So we've planned this content with them. We've planned to share it on social media. And then last minute, they came and they scattered all the plans. So we also have that challenge too as well. And yeah, so that's just it, John.
Thank you so much, Festus.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sela. Those are some great questions. So just to comment that we have had another person that's been on our platform before, Prof. Adam Enyang, and him and his a cappella group have done a song relating to conservation and wildlife. And my colleague Maret has posted the link in the chat for anyone that wants to check that out. So we've got some great comments coming through, Festus. People are really, really thinking that this is, revolutionary, really great work that you're doing. There's an interesting question here from Walter Ogwai about the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm wondering, Walter, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so my name is Walter and thank you, Seal. I'm so impressed by the presentation from Mr. Festus. I really like that. So my question, one of the, during presentation, I noticed COVID-19 was mentioned, and back early when just a few months when COVID-19 was in Kenya, so people would attach pangolins and COVID-19. So I was just curious, being that I saw this in Festus' presentation. So I was just curious, is it, or was it just mythical that pangolin was in relation to COVID-19 causes? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so although there were research, that shows that COVID-19 came from, I think, 2 bushmeat markets or 2 live animal markets in Wuhan, China. We're not sure what animal exactly it is. So I assume that the people who, placed pangolins and COVID-19 together, they were just doing that to show, it's just symbolism. They were just doing that to show that coming in contact with animals could lead to COVID-19. I mean, here in West Africa, we've been plagued by Ebola virus, or we were plagued by Ebola virus, and then we realized that it came from bats. At some point, some people said, I think another animal, I can't remember right now, but majorly from bats. And with Marburg virus currently, people are saying from bats as well. So most times when people design communications, messaging, and they put an animal close to it, they're just trying to show you that, animals could lead to, the next pandemic, or animals could lead to zoonotic diseases, and you should be careful by not interacting with these animals. So I don't know if you've answered your question. And in my presentation, when I talked about COVID-19, I just talked about zoonotic diseases in general. For instance, on the 6th is World Zoonosis Day. And every World Zoonosis Day, which I didn't talk about during my presentation, by the way, we look at the key or the major animal days or the major species days. I use it as an opportunity to talk about these animals. So 6th of July is World Zoonosis Day. We are going to be talking about the need not to come in contact with animals and how it leads to zoonotic diseases and every other thing that will go wrong by eating bushmeat or eating wild animals bushmeat.
Great, thank you, Walter. That was a very interesting question. We have a couple of questions in the chat pertaining to compensation. Do you pay the celebrities that you work with any kind of compensation?
We do not pay them. And it's majorly because it's, again, like I said earlier, it's a public benefit campaign. We are trying to get them to do a campaign about their country, to do a campaign about the need to protect animals in their country, about the need to get people to visit the national park. And when something is not paid for, it comes from the heart, compared to when you pay for something. So the person is committed to the financial benefits alone, or the pecuniary gains that comes with just, promoting a cause. So when it comes from the heart, you see that they are willingly ready to do it. For instance, we partnered with a doctor, a medical doctor in Nigeria. Is one of the biggest influencers here. He finds a way to condense medical terms and then turn into storytelling. So he's very popular for it. I think he has a combined of almost 20 million. So we partnered with him recently. When we approached him for the campaign, it was really easy it was very, very easy because he saw it as an opportunity to do something for the country, right? So it was just a case of, how long do you want me to do it for? Will I be doing it for forever? Should we draft an agreement that says I'll do this for 5 years and then I'm out? You understand? And because this person has done behavioral change campaign in the past with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in the past, it was very easier for us to get him on board. So for ambassadors, we do not pay them. It's a way, in fact, we call it, they should see it as CSR, they see it as corporate social responsibility, just for the country. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. And it's so nice to see that so many celebrities are willing to, use their platforms just for the, coming from the good of their heart and not for the financial gain. That's really, that's really good to see. So I think we've answered most of the questions. I don't see any other hands up. A lot of thanks in the chat. There are some really nice chat comments. I think this is a really, really fascinating talk, and it's a different side of conservation that we don't often see. So Festus, I want to say a massive thank you to you for giving us your time and your expertise. We really appreciate you donating your time from the good of your heart to speak to us today. And for all those watching, thank you very much for joining. We're very happy to have such a wonderful online audience joining from all over, it seems. And of course, this talk is being recorded and will be available on our website within about a week. So once that recording is available, please do share and spread the word. And thank you very much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really nice doing this with you. I appreciate you for inviting me on your platform, and I'll see you around. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Festus.